Now for episode 2 of the Studio Effects, I'm going to talk about delay today. Delay and echo, we can kind of put those into one thing. There is a difference though. Echo implies that the sound dies away, and also that the overall treble response of each echo tends to fall as well, which is more realistic. If you shout across a mountain range and you listen to what you hear back, it's going to have some of the treble essentially missing. Delay, you can have a digital delay which keeps that same sound if you want. The number of delays and echoes plugins out there is enormous. Now, I've got my little intro to my tune here, and as you can hear, it's very, very dry. Only that snare has got some reverb on it. Now, that the guitars I've recorded straight into the computer. There's no guitar amp plugins. I quite like the sort of the Prince sound of getting those guitars to sound really sort of tinny through a mixing desk. Now, there's that the one that goes better. Now, what happens if I stick a delay on that? Okay, go to my audio effects. Let's try an echo first. That's not undesirable. Now, nowadays you can set your delay time as a particular note. So I've got mine as an eighth note. Da, da, ga, da, ga, da, ga, da, ga. We could have eighth triplet. Notice what I mean about the treble response of those echoes dying a bit. You can have, usually an echo unit will come with a colour setting, so you can actually decide what the echoes are going to sound like. So that actually accentuated the treble by taking away the bass. If I go the other way, just solo this out actually. So it very quickly rolled that treble off. Now, the dry signal is pretty much full. The wet signal is 78%. I might want to roll that off a bit. A little bit like the reverb where you can take the level down a bit. The delay, it can be a little bit sort of over the top. If I take the wet signal level down, it'll be just a bit more subtle. You can also set the feedback. Now, what feedback does, and this is really, all of this kind of pertains to the delay plugin as well, except for the colour. Feedback is how many repeats you get. So at 100%, it's going to be fairly horrid. Thank you very much. Now, of course, you can have old delay units, and I used to do this to feed them back to themselves to try and make the feedback actually over 100%, so that each echo would be louder than the previous one. And of course, you get the sort of distortion. And it's great effect, but you've got to use it with caution. Now, feedback-wise, I think it was about 60%. If I take it down a little bit. Those echoes are essentially a bit less in the mix. Now, as I said before, you can have your, you can specify an eighth note triplet or whatever. In the delays, you can actually switch this off, so you can deal with milliseconds only. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to go and find a delay instead. Let's have stereo delay. Yeah, let's have a mono to stereo delay. Now, this is because I've got a mono sound, I've got guitar. Maybe I want to fling it around the stereo image a bit. So I'm just going to solo that guitar. I said don't spend too much time in solo, but for the purposes of this demo, now, the reason it's stereo is because we've got two different delay times. We've got 416 milliseconds on the right and 835 on the left. Now, you can take the tempo sync off, which means you're left with just a millisecond display completely. I quite like the flexibility of being able to make something a little bit out of time with respect to the track. So that's how you would do that. But I can specify a quarter note or an eighth note. I can do all sorts of things with this. You do have a deviation which allows you to actually do that sort of slight free time. But they're both 416 milliseconds now, which means if I play this back, it'll be in mono. I do, yes, I have panned the guitar slightly so that it would be slightly off center. But feedback again on here, you can just turn that up for more repeat rates. Now, we could also play a little bit with the drums on this. I'm going to leave the guitar alone for a minute. I'm going to go to the drum kit and put a delay on that, and we'll see how this is going to work. So let's have stereo delay again, and here are the drums. You've instantly got a much more complicated rhythm for not much work. You just put the delay time on. Maybe if we took the feedback down a little bit, it would be a little bit less obvious that it's a delay unit and more just something to help that rhythm. I could make it both an eighth triplet, if I wanted to, just to make it so that it doesn't wash around the stereo mix again. See what that sounds like in context. Maybe I'll take the mix down slightly. Then you go and show me up on the dance floor. It has taken the impact from that snare being on the backbeat. So actually, I'm going to err on the side of not using it. So delay. It's so many possibilities. Usually, if you have a vocal, I've got my compressor here. If I try putting a delay on that. Another double shot. Don't want this anymore. Why you need to... It just enables you to have a little bit more stereo imaging on your vocal, perhaps. There it is. Play with that at your pleasure. So there we go. Episode 2, delay.